Hi, this is Zach with Warner Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Limes Endurance 1000 GMT Sport Diver. This is by Limes, which is a German brand that is manufactured by the Eckler family. It costs about 1,200 euros, which is around $1,575 US. And for that, you're getting a very robust 1,000 meter diver with a GMT function. It's powered by an ETA 2893-2 top grade movement, which is a very good movement that features a GMT hand. And then what they did was actually add a third time zone on here. So you have your normal time zone, a GMT time zone, and then a GMT bezel. So you can then set yet a third bezel, third time zone with that. So it's a very interesting watch with a very kind of unique case, dial, and bezel design, and we'll take a closer look at it now. The case of the Limes Endurance 1000 has a very bold geometric look with some very kind of jagged angles. It's quite attractive, and it's an interesting design. You know, I find it impressive. This is a 1,000 meter diver with a kind of a very compact design. So it's 42 millimeters in diameter. It has a 20 millimeter lug width. It's about 12.5 millimeters thick and about 47 millimeters lug to lug. So it's you know, on the kind of medium size for a modern watch. Looking at the shape of everything, so you can see the lugs come off very straight and they have a harsh break in them, and then kind of come down at a very straight line. Looking at the side, there's just very strong geometry throughout. It's not really a shape that I've seen before on any watch, so it's interesting, and it's quite nice. You know, it has a kind of a thin profile and a case back that comes out a little bit, but overall everything is very compact, which I like. Adds to the kind of overall sturdiness of the watch. You can see the lugs are screw bar, one-sided screw bar, which I also really like because it just leaves out any, you know, makes it easier to remove the lug bar. It also just prevents stripping on two sides, which is always inconvenient. Looking again at 3 o'clock, you have a screw and crown, very sturdy crown and a nice large size, so it's easy to grasp. And then you have crown guards on either side. It's a very full-featured kind of case design for a diver, but nothing is really over the top about it. The bezel here, I'll talk about the markings when I discuss the dial, but has these nice big teeth going around, very easy to grasp, has a nice snap to it. It's a 120 click unidirectional bezel, as you might expect. Yeah, and overall the build quality is very strong. You know, it's very good as you would expect from a 1,000 meter diver. Simple case back. The dial of the Limes Endurance 1000 GMT has a lot going on, and that's because it actually is telling you quite a bit of information, but everything's broken out in an interesting way, so it's quite easy to read at a glance. Looking at the kind of outer edge of the inner dial, you have a second or minute scale broken into small hash marks and then markings every 5 minutes. That's very clear, and that's kind of pushed to the side so it doesn't interfere with anything. Then you have these very large hour markings, which are, you know, large trapezoidal shapes. They are loomed, and those are kind of more of a typical diver style marking. Very clear, very bold, and the white coloring actually makes it easier to kind of draw your eyes to the white hands, which are pointing, you know, to that white scale. Then inside you have this little internal circle just at the edge of that, which in red indicates the first GMT scale, and that is actually set down a little bit into the dial, so it's very subtle, but it is impressed in, which gives it kind of a nice little, it recedes from the front of the dial a little bit and just breaks things up a little bit more. And then, of course, at 4.5, you have a date window with a black disc and a white numeral. So that too is subtle, but easy to read. Now, looking at the bezel, you have this black bezel that has two different indices on it. In white, you have a typical kind of a diver bezel for, you know, watching elapsed time when you dive. So that's all the just minutes going around. And then you have yet a second GMT scale there, also in red, relating to the red hand. And now looking at the hands, for the hour and minute, you have these two large white hands with kind of like a fence post shape. They're very clear and bold, and I think they're very well proportioned to the dial. They are both loomed with kind of two loom sections on each, which you might be able to see. There's a little white line breaking them up. Then you have the second hand going around with this large loomed arrow pointer. I think they look really nice with the watch and just kind of work with the overall design. Then here you have the GMT hand, and now this is kind of where things get a little different and a little interesting. So this red hand, you might see has two triangle or arrowheads on it, and those are pointing to your two GMT scales. So right now this inner one is pointing to 17 or 5 o'clock, so it's saying, it's about 5:11 in that time zone. And then the second scale on the bezel, I have it pointing to 5, so let's just say then it's 5 a.m. in that time zone, so they're 12 hours apart, which of course you can then just change very quickly. It's a very cool kind of fast way of setting yet another time zone, or referring to something else. It's a clever design, and I like that they built all of this information into a 1000 meter dive watch. Just a little bit about the movement and how to use it on this watch. So this has the ETA 2893-2 GMT movement. It's an automatic movement with 25 joules, beats at 28,000 beats per hour, and it's kind of a gold standard. You might say for GMT movement, it's the movement you'll see most common, especially in non in-house caliber mechanical watches that are Swiss or German made. So there's different levels of that, different grades of movements that these brands get. There's kind of a standard, there's a labouré, and then there's top grade. And this features a top grade movement, which, though you can't see it, there's no display case back, means it's decorated, it's rhodium plated, but it's also well-regulated movement, so it should be keeping very good time. And it's only featured really in higher end watches, which is just good to know. It's good value. So as I said, it's a GMT hand, so you have your standard 3-hand movement, and then you have the extra GMT. Now, just showing you quickly how that works. The crown just sprung out, not pulled out at all. You can wind the movement and then pull it out one more, rotating away from you, and that'll click the GMT hand. And now this is in the first position, and you'll see it goes in like half-hour, and 1 hour increments on the 24-hour scale. In that same position, turn it towards you, and it changes the date. Pull it out once more, you'll see the seconds hack, and now you can change the time, which will also move that hand, but at half the rate of the normal 12-hour hands. Just taking a look at the Limes Endurance on the wrist, I think that the watch actually sits very nicely on the wrist, especially for kind of a robust sport watch. It has a very low profile, and it's not oversized really at all. It feels appropriate. So yeah, the 42 millimeter case size just sits well. The lugs don't come too far out. It's very comfortable. It's a fairly lightweight watch too for what it is. All in all, it's easy to wear. And doesn't bother you during the day like some oversized divers could. In terms of the look, it's a very kind of a different looking watch in my opinion. I can't really quite compare it to anything. Yeah, there's some typical diver elements in the dial with those large trapezoids, but the look with the red indices going around, it's just different. It's almost unaestheticized and very kind of technical looking, which I think is pretty cool. It's definitely kind of a masculine watch. Now this version, the $1,200 version, comes on a strap that I'm not 100% sure really the material, it's some sort of rubber. It looks like a leather, like it's prepared to look like leather with its white stitching around, but it's really a matte rubber, and it's one of the most comfortable rubber straps I've ever put on. It really, it sits well, it doesn't kind of create heating issues, it's not sticky, it's very comfortable, and I think the look, you can see this padded element here, is just really cool. Works very well with the watch. And the buckle here says Limes on it, and it has a couple little kind of geometric details on it which bring you back to the case design. Overall, it's a very nicely stylized package. So, this wouldn't be a worn and wound review if we didn't show this to you on a NATO strap. So here it is on a green Maritech NATO strap. I think it speaks for itself once again. It's very cool color combination, kind of makes the watch meaner looking. And, like I said, the strap it comes on is great, and I really liked it. But if you want something a little more color, maybe just, like I said, a little more attitude, this really does a good job at that. So to wrap up, the Limes Endurance 1000 GMT with 3 GMT time zones, it's a very solid, robust dive watch with this added feature of a double GMT function, making it a watch you could wear as a sturdy sport watch or a watch you could wear for traveling. It's very nicely designed. It's very well built, very sturdy watch. It's a little expensive at around $1,575. That's converted from euros, so that might change a little bit. But for that, you're getting, a genuinely rock-solid watch with an ETA 2893-2 GMT movement and a top-grade one at that. Yeah, and just something that's kind of unique and a little different from what we have normally seen. So yeah, this is Zach once again with Worn and Wound. Thanks for viewing. Hope you enjoyed this and are interested in the watch. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and check us out on Tumblr and anywhere else. Goodbye.